Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Come on in and open your mind. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Come on in and let's explore. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Come on in and let's begin. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Come on in and bring a friend. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Come on in and let's begin. We have been enjoying some really fun winter stories. It is winter time where I'm at. So, our story today. Yeah, don't forget, bring your friend. I like to call these book buddies. Get your blanket. Come on in. Let's begin. This is one of my all-time favorite stories. I love to read The Mitten to my pre-K friends. Everybody always loved this story, The Mitten. This story is adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. She makes some really cool stories. Well, let's begin. Once upon a story time, there was a story titled The Mitten, adapted by Jan Brett, illustrated by Jan Brett. The Mitten, a Ukrainian folktale, adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. She wrote this story for Sylvia Kyle, Ruth Ann Johnson, Rebecca Lim, and Ted Beagley. Look at those beautiful illustrations. Once there was a boy named Nicki who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as snow. Look at Nicki. He wanted white mittens. I love that color. Don't you in the wintertime? You just blend in with the snow. I love all colors. I do. At first, his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. If you drop one in the snow, she warned, you'll never find it. But Nicki wanted snow white mittens, and finally, Baba made them. It's nice, right? When your grandparents could knit you some mittens. How sweet. After she finished, she said, when you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound. But then I will look to see if you still have your snow white mittens. So off Nicki went, and it wasn't long until one of his new mittens dropped in the snow and was left behind. Just what Baba feared. A mole, tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten and buried inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in, feet first. The mole didn't think there was room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. There they are. Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone covered with prickles, they made room. But what is Nicki doing? Is he looking for his mitten? I think so. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled. But when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. Everyone in that mitten. Look. But look at Nicki. I think he's still searching. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left. But when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb. Like, yeah, come on in. We don't want to bother you. Get on in here. But look, is Nicki still looking? Think so. Do you think Nicki's going to find that mitten? Will he notice? Look at all of them in there. They're making room. It started snowing, but the animals were stuck snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the hedger saw his shiny teeth, they gave the fox lots of room. Look at that. I would give him room too. Look at that mitten. And then there's Nicki. A great bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be. But what animal will argue with a bear? The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and bulged, too many times its size. But Baba's good knitting held fast. Wow, look. Do you think the bear is going to fit? And look at Nicki. I think Nicki got tired. Who's coming next? Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wriggled into the one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. Look at that. Wow, Baba did some great knitting. But what happened next? The bear, tickled by the mouse whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Are you ready to sneeze with me? Ready? Ah, ah, choo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. Look at that. That was a huge sneeze. happened next. On his way home, Nicki saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost Mitten, silhouette against the blue sky. As he ran to catch his snow-white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. First, she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his new mittens. So happy for Nicki. Thanks to that mouse and his whiskers. But look at that. Look at Baba's face. Why do you think she looked like that? Look at those mittens. What do you notice that's different about those mittens? I would have that look too that Baba has. One is small. One is big. It's giant. Why is it giant? It's all stretched out. Because if you can remember, all those animals were in there. And everyone scooched on over and made some space. Sharing is caring. Everyone kept warm. Don't forget to share with a friend this winter. When you're in your classroom and someone may not have some mittens, but if your teacher have an extra pair maybe, or someone, maybe they can help someone else feel warm. Maybe if you have some mittens or scarves that you can't fit anymore and you don't wear, maybe you can donate them to someone. Give them to your local Goodwill. Ask Mom and Dad what the Goodwill is. Maybe you can donate them so that everyone can be warm. Sharing is caring this winter. Sharing is always caring. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Once upon a story time. Now it's time to end. I enjoyed this story. Once upon a story time, there was a book titled The Mitten. If you would like to enjoy this story again, check this book out from your local library. Or if you would like to have this book in your own library at home, you might want to visit your local bookstore. Maybe they can get it, they'll have it, or maybe they can order it for you. Or we do have a lot of moms and dads who shop online at stores, so they were nowhere to go. Maybe like Amazon or other stores that sell the mitten. Thank you for joining. And if you're getting ready for bed, sleep tight. If you're getting ready for nap time, sleep tight. Or if you were just enjoying story time, I'm happy that you came to enjoy. If you like these winter stories or more stories at Once Upon a Story Time, please subscribe. Don't forget to like. Bye.